脏。安心没心多长，一直到幸福开始打扰，那在无意之下，都明了连心交。无造无三角，最后但是最大。在故意天上，都明了连心交。无猜测成长。Okay, let's continue reading Higurashi. Sorry. Satoshi is a good brother who takes great care of his sister. He went to visit Sadako straight after school and kept encouraging her to get better every day. Without even hearing Satoshi's stories, it's obvious to me that Sadako never had a good relationship with her step-parents. She especially didn't get along with her stepfather. Sadako even called the child abuse hotline once. Not only that, her parents ended up dying in an accident, so she just wasn't able to withstand all that damage. Sadako is still very young, so everything must have been horrible for her to go through. Fortunately, she has a wonderful brother. Emotional wounds are hard to heal. Nothing heals those wounds better than love from family members. I'm sure that one day Sadako will be able to smile again. She's still in shock, but when she talks to Satoshi, she smiles a little bit. Oishi from the police department keeps requesting to see her, but I think I need to protect her for just a little bit longer. While he's passionate about his job, I wish he'd be a touch more sensitive. If he reminds her of her parents' accident, her emotional wounds will start to open up again. That's the one point I worry about with Sadako. I heard someone knocking on the door. It was Takano. It doesn't look right wearing a nurse's uniform like that. She's a licensed doctor, so she'd be wearing a white coat and act like one. Maybe this is fun for her, and I think she might be insulting the real nurses. I didn't say anything, though. Dr. Irie, may I talk to you? Oh, yes. Well, Satoshi, if you excuse me. Sure. Hello, Satoshi. Please keep Sadako company. She's always alone, so I bet she's lonely. Okay?
Oh, no, that's not true.
Okay, Satoshi, you're in charge. I got up and let Satoshi take over. Did something happen? Not right here. Let's go to your office. Takano smiled meaningfully. Usually smiles bring happy feelings, but when it comes to Takano, that's rarely the case. Are you sure? Yes. The initial test results show there's a possibility she's at level 3 or above. We need to keep her here and run some more tests. The results aren't in yet, but from what I can see, it's very possible that she is at level 4. Takano's eyes sparkled in a weird way. There's a reason for that. For us, finding patients in the terminal stage is a valuable boon to our research. In fact, as a result of dissecting the murder suspect from last year, we made great progress in our research. In other words, we finally managed to isolate the pathogen. We also discovered that when the host dies, the pathogen melts away within a few hours. Once that happens, it's undetectable. That's why we never found the pathogen when we performed autopsies. Our research made a lot of progress after that. What we found in this past year has easily surpassed what the late Dr. Takano found in decades. We're now studying the nature, the effect, the symptoms of the pathogen, as well as the treatments and vaccines. In other words, a living specimen who's at the terminal stage is a necessity for our research. However, we rarely find a patient who's gone that far who's reached level 5. Hinamizawa syndrome once created huge numbers of level 5 patients, but today, it doesn't have such potency. Because of that, we have to secure level 5 patients or patients who are close to reaching level 5 as quickly as possible. Sadako possibly qualifies to be that next sacrifice. To keep this strange disease a secret, we can't let patients who may be at level 5 go. We have to run more tests first. Then we'll figure out what to do next. In any case, Sadako seems so calm. Her behavior is nothing like the man from last year. Initial tests are errors sometimes. We'll have to wait for the results of more detailed tests to determine how serious her condition is. Okay, let's admit her for observation. Please let the staff know to get things ready. That sounds like a formal answer, but if the results are come back positive, that'll be a green light for a dissection. I don't know Sadako that well, but I've known her brother Satoshi through the baseball team for a long time. How could I dissect the apple of Satoshi's eyes? I can feel scary images flashing in my head for the first time. Don't worry, everything's already taken care of. She smiled as if telling me the dissection is already being prepared for too. Is it just her who's smiling? Am I smiling like her too? When I dissected that man last year, I did feel guilt beforehand. But once I started, it was like I was in paradise. All the pieces of the puzzle that were left by the late Dr. Takano fell into place. At the same time they didn't. How exciting that was. Knowing that we're the first ones to take the first steps to solve a mystery, that is. I don't even know how to explain this feeling to those who have never experienced it. There's no way to describe it with words. The only thing I can say is that even a year later, I still remember it vividly. So if the results show that Satoshi's beloved sister is to be dissected, can I control myself? Can I stay calm? But that means I'm a failure of a human being. I know very well the Hojo family was treated poorly by the villagers, and I know what Sadako had to go through. I also know Satoshi loves his sister, who is his one and only blood relative. How can I dissect Sadako using my research as an excuse? I didn't feel that much guilt for the man from last year, but I feel unbearable guilt towards Sadako. That means what I did last year was very sinful. I don't care if a stranger dies, but I don't want Sadako to die. That's not right. All lives are equally precious. I tried to convince myself that he was a violent murderer. Maybe he only became that way because he was at a terminal stage. I don't know anything about him before he became deranged. Maybe he was a model citizen who was worthy of respect. But fortunately, he became ill and ended up doing what he did. Maybe he was a victim himself, just like my father. I know more about Hinamizawa syndrome than anybody. This disease makes people act in bizarre ways, without those people realizing it. So when the people at the terminal stage do such strange and violent things, one should be sympathetic. I already knew that back then when I decided to go down this path. I should have remembered it sooner. But I only did just now. I finally realized what sinful research I'm working on. Hojo Sadako's detailed test results came back. The results say level 5. She's at a terminal stage. It's actually a surprising result. In the last year's case, the patient was extremely deranged. According to Takano's records, he complained about itching coming from his lymph nodes all over his body and wanted to claw at his throat, just as the late Dr. Takano mentioned. But Sadako isn't displaying such symptoms. Even in the late Dr. Takano's data, throat clawing is said to be a characteristic symptom of the terminal stage patients. However, not all patients experience that symptom. Besides, emotional expression is very different in each person. Even if it's the same emotion, one patient may express it rather violently, and another may express it calmly. There's no way of knowing just by looking at a person. But Sadako's test results say that she's at the terminal stage of level 5. In other words, she may be feeling what that man from last year was feeling. It's just that she isn't expressing that feeling the same way that man was. Hinamizawa syndrome affects the frontal lobes of the brain. It stimulates the most primitive of emotions, doubt, very strongly. As a result, terminal patients are trapped in delusions and paranoia and end up committing horrible crimes. Sadako seems to show improvement when she's exchanging friendly words with Satoshi, but there's a paranoia stirring inside her that could put her in a deranged state at any moment. I can't let her leave the clinic like this. However, if things go according to the manual, I'll have to make a decision on her dissection. My decision will only be a formality. I can't actually refuse. Takano appears to be already working on the dissection schedule. That plan will then come to me. Would I feel the same way when dissecting Sadako? Would I be able to experience that trance once again? No. The question is, can I fight the temptation? As I pretend to question myself, I'm letting Takano prepare things on her own. By doing so, am I passively agreeing to Sadako's dissection? If possible, I want to save Sadako. I don't want her to be a sacrifice for this research. I don't want to dissect her. What about the man from last year? Do I only care about the lives of people I know? If I don't dissect her, do I let her live and leave the clinic? Do I simply wait for her to become deranged and commit a horrible crime? Then she'll end up here, just like the man from last year. And I'll end up dissecting her anyway. The man from last year was dissected alive and kept that way for several months. With his skull left open, he wasn't allowed to die for several months. He was kept alive, just for our cruel experiments. I don't want to do that to her. I don't know what to do. Even debating and agonizing over it is leaning toward consent to her dissection by elimination. Poor Irie. I don't like him, but yeah. Can I do the one? Yeah, I can. Assistance from the Queen Bee. That very night, the head of the Furude family and the priest gathered his wife and Rika together for a family meeting. In Hinamizawa, it is tradition for the three families to gather and discuss the village issues. It was hardly unusual for big families like the Sonozaki family and the Kimiyoshi family to have meetings beforehand to sort out opinions among themselves. However, the Furude family had lost its branch families. There were only 3 of them left. So until that day, they had never had a family meeting at all. What is it? You're being so formal. Is it about the dam construction? The dam was the most important issue in the village at the moment. The wife naturally assumed the priest wanted to talk about the dam. For him to gather all them together like that, it must be a huge decision he had to make. Perhaps he was going to talk about joining the pro-evacuation camp. No, it's not about the dam, but it's about something extremely important which concerns this village, and perhaps all the ancestors of the villagers too. The Furude family had served in priesthood of Oyashiro, the guardian deity of the village, for generations. So for him, the head of the family, to start that out that way, it must be something extremely important. Yet he said it wasn't about the dam. So what could he want to talk about? I married into this family, so I want you and Rika, who carry the true blood of the Furude family, to listen very carefully. You two aren't normal human beings.
I'm the reincarnation of Oyashiro, right?
Rika, you shouldn't say such things! Dear, talk about things like that without her. She's heard enough nonsense for the elderly people at the village hall already. What she just said about her being the reincarnation of Oyashiro, that happens to be true. What? It's a rather long story. Please just sit tight and listen to me. The wife had a dumbfounded expression on her face, not knowing what he was going to say, but Rika was completely relaxed, wearing her usual carefree expression. The priest started to talk after his wife had calmed down. There's a disease in this village that's been here for many years. It's a special disease which only exists here in this area. Everyone who lives in this village has the disease. Not only the people who live here now, but all the people who've ever lived here had the disease. What? But we're all perfectly healthy. I've never heard of a disease exclusive to this village. Calm down. As long as we're here in this village, the disease won't cause any problems. But once you move away from this village, that's when it starts to act out. Do you understand? How can you expect me to understand such a thing? I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's the same as the curse of Oyashiro.
Rika said it so calmly while her mother became frustrated. That's right. They say that when you leave this village, you're cursed. It's just like that. In other words, the curse of Oyashiro, which our ancestors have feared for generations, is actually a disease that only exists in this village. How could that be possible? We've left the village before. Other villagers too. Some had gone on business trips, and some even traveled to foreign countries. True. That's probably only because the disease has weakened over a long time, so it was going to disappear eventually. But the business with the dam disrupted that process. Everyone knew that during the dam war, the entire village was aflame with agitation. Such excitement and emotional instability makes the disease stronger. I still don't know what you're trying to say. What we thought was a curse all this time was actually caused by the disease? That's right. All the rules Oyashiro came up with were here to protect the villagers from the disease. No way! Then Oyashiro's actually diseased, not a god! How could that be? How could I explain that to the Furude family ancestors? Calm down. The faith in Oyashiro won't change. The fact that Oyashiro is watching over Hinamizawa will remain the same. It just means the disease-producing Oyashiro's curse was in this village since long ago, that's all. I won't accept that! How could I explain that to our ancestors? This is a desecration of the Furude family's age-old traditions. No, this is a desecration of Oyashiro. Who told you such a thing? This isn't acceptable. In the first place, can you prove such a disease actually exists? I can't. What kind of proof? Who gave it to you? The people from the Ministry of Health and the National Institute of Infectious Disease Prevention. They already found the pathogen, and they're searching for a cure right now. I saw the documents and the samples last week. The people of the Ministry of Health call it the Hinamizawa syndrome. No way. As long as you lead a normal life, the syndrome's harmless. But once you go far from Hinamizawa, or if you become emotionally unstable, it's easy for the disease to manifest itself. When the disease acts out, you can be possessed by your own delusions, and in the worst case scenario, you can go mad. I discovered this disease during the war. A distinguished scholar noticed that only the soldiers from Hinamizawa came down with the abnormal disease. He's been researching it all these years. They explained some of the details of his research, but I'm sorry. They're too complicated for me to explain. If you don't believe what I'm saying, why don't you go listen to them for yourself? At first I was indignant too, wondering how they dared blaspheme Oyashiro and spout such nonsense. The Irie Clinic was built to study the syndrome. It appears just to be a clinic on the outside, but it's actually a secret research center for studying the syndrome. Secret research? That's ridiculous! If it's actually backed by the Ministry of Health, why aren't they doing it out in the open? Well, I guess they can't. For example, think about leprosy victims who are misunderstood and exiled. They're still misunderstood and discriminated even today. In fact, the whole country finds out about this and thinks that everyone in Hinamizawa who has contracted this weird disease can go mad at any moment. It'll turn to chaos. The Ministry of Health has taken that into consideration and is working on developing a cure while keeping the disease a secret. Don't get me wrong though, they aren't trying to put us on display or anything. They're trying to eliminate this disease and free this village from it. It was a different story long ago, when we supported ourselves, but nowadays, it's impossible not to leave the village. If a simple act of leaving the village can trigger the disease, you'd realize how dangerous it is for the villagers, right? I'm repeating myself now, but in the recent dam protests, the whole village entered a strong excited state, which is very bad for the Hinamizawa syndrome.
If some villagers go crazy and do something horrible, it'll be all over the media.
That's right. If that happens, it'll be too late. But how can I believe this? Are you sure we're dealing with people from the government? Are you sure you aren't being tricked? I don't blame you for not being able to believe it. They said that we can take a look at their facility any time. I've seen it before, and I know that no mere fraud could have set up something like that. Even the big hospitals in Gogora don't have such large-scale equipment. If you can't believe what I just told you, you should go to the research center yourself and ask questions. They can explain it better than I can. They said their explanation isn't good enough. They can explain it to you at the National Research Institute in Tokyo, or even the Ministry of Health's main office. Whether I believe it or not, how are we related to that? It's said the Furude family inherited the blood of Oyashiro. It's also said that if a girl was born for 8 continuous generations, the 8th generation girl would be the reincarnation of Oyashiro.
Me.
That's right. And the 7th, and Rika is the 8th generation, but what does that have to do with the disease? Well, this is Hinamizawa syndrome is caused by a type of parasite. Although they're very tiny, you can't even see them with the naked eye. They say there's some sort of leader among these parasites. Are you saying that's the Furude family? It appears that the leader of these parasites is passed down through the generations only by people with direct bloodlines of the Furude family. In other words, in a previous generation it was you, and now it's Rika.
Me.
That's ridiculous! That's absolutely ridiculous! Why would something as disgusting as parasites exist in this first place? Calm down. I'm not going to explain things. Please have some experts explain it to you. According to them, studying this parasite leader is necessary in order to research the disease. No! I won't have anything to do with such suspicious research, and Rika won't either! I'm telling you to calm down. They think that Hinamizawa syndrome acts out when it is separated from the parasite leader, not the village itself. When you were little, do you remember villagers telling you that you had psychic powers? You were able to cure elderly people who got migraines after taking a long trip. That's proof that you were carrying the parasite leader. The Furude bloodline has the power to cure people with the disease. To discover a cure, it's extremely important that we participate in the research.
If they study me, will the villagers be saved?
That's what they say.
And all the villagers are infected? Me? Everyone else? Sadako too?
Yes, not only the people who live in the village, but their relatives in Okinomiya too. We're talking about thousands of people. That's why the Ministry of Health spent so much money to build a specialized research center. I object! How can you let Rika be a sacrifice for something that suspicious?
I don't mind. If Sadako can be saved, I don't mind being a sacrifice. I really don't.
You be quiet, Rika! I absolutely refuse. I'll go talk to them and refuse them directly. I won't let them kill Rika in a crazy experiment. Besides, Rika is the one and only heir of the Furude family. What if something happens to her? The Furude family will die right there. Don't you see that? You need to think more carefully about our family. That's why the villagers call you an opportunist. After all, don't you think it's odd? The Ministry of Construction is trying to submerge the village, and the Ministry of Health is trying to cure a disease. What in the world is going on? The Ministry of Health has warned me this disease could be triggered by a change in the environment. They're actually trying to have the Ministry of Construction stop the dam construction plan. You really should go to the research center. Why would they build such a huge facility in a location that would be submerged? Rika let out a big yawn. It was long past bedtime for a little girl like her.
I'm going to bed now. Dad, please let him know I'm willing to participate, okay?
Rika! You can't make such a decision without consulting me! Rika! Wait! Rika! Okay. An accident at the Shirakawa Park. Ah, shit. You can't do that one yet. Oof. Made a mistake. Okay. Depression of a Shinto priest. The gathering place inside the Furude Shrine is in fact the headquarters of the Onigafuji Guardians. Normally, a shrine would be quiet, but there are anti-dam signs everywhere, making it obvious what this location has become. There are over 30 members of the Guardians here at the moment. They're having a heated conversation about their plans for the future. Although this meeting is a place on the Furude family's property, it's a community facility, so it closes at 9 p.m. Of course, sometimes a discussion gets so heated that it goes on past closing time, but the meetings are supposed to end by 9. If discussion ends early, they usually chit-chat until that time. That's usually what happens. Of course, they mostly talk about the dam, even when they chit-chat. They talk about someone's mistreatment at the government office, or someone getting arrested unjustly, or complain that people at the dam construction site are too violent. Since it's idle chatter, the topics are slightly emotional, and because of that, there was a good deal of bad-mouthing the Hojos. Then she threw the circulation notes away. Can you believe that? That woman's crazy. Just the other day, she got into a huge argument with Makino's grandmother at the trash pickup. You know, that husband's rude, too. He's so irrational. Did you see him at the explanatory meeting? That was bad, huh? I can't believe they're still here. I wish they'd just leave. He said something about money. He has absolutely no shame. No. You talk about being irrational. His wife is the same, or even worse. It must be hereditary. I see their daughter shopping quite often. I used to say hello to her, but she never replied. Can you believe that? So I got tired of it. I don't say anything to her anymore. Hey, their son always looks so depressed, doesn't he? By now, the Hojo family has become the enemy of the whole village. Bad-mouthing the Hojo family was the greatest shared topic that anybody could easily contribute to. If he had known how powerful the three families were, especially the Sonozaki family, if he had known Oyoro's character, he wouldn't have said the things he did. The Hojo couple are residents here. Though they were never very enthusiastic about the council activities, they should have known what kind of person Oreo is. He could have imagined what would have happened if he talked to her in that way, yet he let his anger take over and voice his unpleasant feelings. So most people think the Hojo family brought their isolation upon themselves. If they wanted to negotiate with the government regarding their move, they should have done so privately, yet he was foolish enough to express himself at the public gathering like that. So not many sympathize with the Hojo family. Ever since the big fight at the explanatory meeting, the Hojo family has looked at the Hojo family as their enemy and started to go after them. That caused the other pro-down families to go quiet, fearing they'd be made into scapegoats too. Those who wanted to leave were bitterly forced to give up. Even those who started criticizing the Hojo family said that they could have gotten their compensation to leave if the two hadn't picked that reckless fight. Both the anti-dam and pro-dam people hate the Hojos now. The family has become even more isolated. Moreover, the Hojos are both very aggressive. They should have stayed quiet at least until things settled down, but they didn't. That alienated a handful of people who took pity on them as well. So now nobody says anything to them. All that was immediately obvious by listening to the foul talk here at the gathering place. Rika always helps by putting the teacups away, so I'm sure she hears what they say as well. One of the Hojo family members, their bad-mouthing is Rika's friend Sadako. It hurts to think about what Rika feels when hearing that. As the priest of the Furude family, should I let this continue? Oshiro is a god who makes peace between enemies. When the humans and demons fought, Oyashiro descended from the heaven and mediated both sides. As the caretaker of the shrine, I must do something before it goes too far. I'm sitting next to Oreo, who is spitefully disparaging the Hojo family. So that ass was talking shit to me! Who the hell cares? He'll be cursed by Oyashiro, that's for sure! The elderly people cheer her on as they listen to her speak. If I barge in now, I have a feeling it won't be a peaceful conversation. But I have to make up my mind. As priest of the Furude Shrine, and also for the sake of Rika's friend Sadako. Oreo, don't you think you've said enough by now? Huh? What the hell are you trying to tell me? Well, I'm sure Hojo really didn't mean what he said. Isn't that a bit much for this kind of treatment to go on so long? Shut up! You heard what he said, didn't you? Weren't you pissed? He pissed me off! Oreo's the head of the Sonozaki family, the heir to the demons. She never forgives anyone who stands against her. There's no way she'd even listen to what I'm trying to say, or on the others become furious and refuse to listen to me. I also mentioned the dam construction plan will be cancelled soon, so they should calm down already. I said that because the staff of the Erie Clinic told me the government is putting some kind of pressure on the Ministry of Construction. But thinking that I'm being an opportunist, soon criticism of me began to circulate the room. After that, I realized I've become branded as a fence sitter. If the demons are willing to listen, there's a chance to make peace. But how can I make peace with people who refuse to listen? I destroyed their mood, so I have to give up and shut my mouth. Then I felt a little hand on my back. Rika, it's getting late. Why don't you go home?
No matter how hard we try, we can't reach them.
Rika looked into the distance when she spoke.
The evil of this corrupted village is probably beyond the means of those of us living in that muck. But I won't lose hope. Surely someone who will destroy the stagnation will arrive. Very soon, I know.
Her eyes shone, as if seeing a future that only the maiden of the Furude Shrine could see. Suffering of a big brother. A group of boys are playing baseball under the powerful sun. The sound of cicadas make the heat stand out even more, but to those boys, it's just another guy cheering from the crowds. Of course, they go through training exercises to build stamina, but the boys don't actually like such routine activities. What they look forward to the most is the free game after practice. The school in Hinamizawa is actually borrowed from the Forestry Service. The schoolyard is made of gravel, so it's not very appropriate for playing sports on. Compared to that, the grounds of the school in Okinomiya are properly maintained for athletic activities, so the kids grow even more energetic when they come here. Kids from Hinamizawa don't really care if the ground is made of gravel or not. The other instructor is watching the game and decided to go get drinks for the team. Coach, where are you going? I thought I'd go get some drinks for everyone. Do you mind helping me, Satoshi? Oh no, not at all! Satoshi decided to come along with me. Sometimes kids don't like what grown-ups choose, so I'm glad he agreed to help. Satoshi and I got into the car and headed to the grocery store nearby. Manager, how is Sadako doing? Well, she's doing fine, although it's an extremely slow process. Her emotional wounds are healing. I think we should let her rest for a little longer. It's natural for Satoshi to be worried. Sadako has been in the hospital for over 2 weeks. Of course, he doesn't know his sister has Hinamizawa syndrome. Not only that, she's almost at level 5. She could become deranged at any moment. He believes that she's depressed because of the shock of her parents' accident. He came to the clinic every day to cheer up his sister, but Sadako has become emotionally unstable and was showing some dangerous symptoms, so we called off the visits. In fact, Sadako is not doing so well. Level 5, the stage Sadako is at, is a very abnormal one. The man from last year, who was at the same stage, was acting so abnormal. Even a drug addict in his final stages would have turned and ran. There's no guarantee that Sadako won't fall into the same condition. When we performed the autopsy of that man last year, we learned the true identity of the symptom and gained a great understanding of its mechanisms. We even discovered some important facts that may have led to the development of a cure. However, we may have to find a method of actually curing the disease. So, if Sadako becomes unrecoverable, we may have to dissect her, just like we did from the man from last year. How could I tell Satoshi about his sister's situation? All I can do is make vague comments and lie to him that she's recovering. What if she becomes much worse? That would make me an unforgivable liar. A tiny bit of conscience that remains in me hurts. If it's okay with your clinic, can she stay there a little longer? Why are you saying that? I thought he wanted her to come home as soon as possible, so I'm a little surprised. Well, actually, Sadako doesn't get along well with her aunt. I heard she didn't get along with her parents. But she can't get along well with your aunt and uncle either? Sadako doesn't open up to grown-ups. I know that feel. Satoshi has told me about their family background. Their mother's constant remarriages wounded her children deeply. Satoshi was able to overcome it, but Sadako was too young to be able to do that. That left her traumatized, and now she has a tendency to distrust or dislike guardians who aren't related to her. Actually, nobody who would like a guardian who isn't related to them. It's not such as Sadako, but usually people try to deal with that even if they don't like it. I guess Sadako's not capable of that. Our uncle isn't home very much. Besides, when he is, he's either sleeping or watching TV, so he's not the problem. But our aunt really goes after Sadako. Why doesn't she like her? I can guess why. Sadako's parents were damn proponents. Because of that, the villagers consider the aunt and uncle the part of the Hojo family and ostracize them as such. Moreover, they passed away suddenly in an accident and left 2 children behind. I guess there would be more hate there than gratitude. If she had been obedient like Satoshi, everything would have been fine. But Sadako can't be that way. She shows that in her attitude and expressions, which lead her and her aunt having a big fight. I told my aunt about Sadako's situation, but she just can't understand. I think you're a great big brother, Satoshi. You're the one and only relative Sadako has left now. Right. I feel that way too, Satoshi said with a slight hint of a sigh. He doesn't say it, but it seems Satoshi has grown tired of having to cover for Sadako every time she and her aunt fight. He's a good person as well as a big brother, so I'm sure he'd do anything to cover for his sister. But that's a very exhausting thing to keep doing forever. Satoshi was already doing that when their parents were alive. Eventually, his mental equilibrium couldn't handle the strain. He grew sick, and he visited my clinic. I thought his circumstances might have improved after the initial cause. His parents were gone. But it seems things were even worse than before. I understand. I can't release Sadako if things are like that. Her symptoms may return again. Don't worry about hospital fees. I make sure that Sadako truly recovers. While trying to pretend I'm listening to his request, I feel a little disgusted at myself for making such selfish excuses. I'll make sure. Takano is working on her dissection plan as we speak. If that's possible, that'll help me too. What? I mean, if Sadako stays in the clinic a little while longer, then I can relax as well. That's all. What do you mean? As soon as Sadako comes back, I know she'll get into fights with my aunt again. And it's back to those days of constant fighting and screaming again. And I'll probably get dragged into it too. So if Sadako were hospitalized for a very long time, that would be the easiest on me. But when I think like that, I hate myself. Satoshi's a great big brother who always sticks up for his little sister. That doesn't mean he doesn't feel burdened. To think things like that, what a terrible big brother I am. The more that I think that way, the more I hate myself. Satoshi said, sniffling once. His expression was one of anguish, as if truly feeling his own sin. His desire to be a model big brother is putting himself under great pressure. I feel bad for Sadako, but I also feel bad for Satoshi in a different way. As someone who knows both of them well, I feel I must be their ally, since they don't have anyone else who cares about them. Like, I wish Irie was just like a caring guy and not like whatever the hell that was with the maids with Sadako. Okay. Okay. Okay, there you know it. I don't know. Oh, shit. My bad. Can we do this one yet? Okay, let's do that one. Fruity, thank you for waiting. We just finished the test result. She'll be back soon. I hope she's able to do help. Of course, Rika will help the whole village. I think we'll be able to come up with a treatment soon. We're still looking into the structure, but we're finding out how important Rika is to the villagers. People with more serious conditions can't stabilize themselves. We found out if they get close to the Queen Carrier, they generate some kind of substance in their brain. This substance has a calming effect, and it seems to have the power to bring their symptoms down. If we can produce this substance, it'll end up making for a powerful treatment. I see. He has that kind of power. You shouldn't be surprised. People say the maidens of the Fruity Shrine have the psychic power to calm both souls and demons, don't they? Even before we discovered it, it was already recorded in the history of the last few hundred years. That's true. I'm impressed with how wise people were back then.
Me, the tests are all done.
Rika, good work. You must be getting tired. Why don't you take this and go get something to drink?
Me, they took a lot of my blood, so I need to replenish.
Rika took the 100 yen coin that was offered to her and ran out into the hallway. I appreciate Rika's help. If she hadn't offered her assistance, our research wouldn't have progressed this far. Rika's very concerned about her friend with the syndrome. She says she wants to help because of her. Doctor, please take Rika's feelings into account. Of course! We're taking up her precious time every Sunday. We'll make sure to get to the bottom of this. We may have to put her through some rather rough experiments, but I hope you'll understand. We'll never harm her in any way, though. She's such an important person. She's the reincarnation of Oyashiro, after all. I wonder how many people back then found out about this syndrome, and how they knew the Furude family were the descendants of the queen. I'm truly impressed. By the way, there's something I have to ask you. I would like to ask for your permission to collect her cerebrospinal fluid. Also, there's a chance that we may have to drill a hole in her skull to examine the insides of her head. A hole in her skull? Of course we'll take every precaution. Rika is the one and only queen carrier. We'll make sure that she's safe, and her safety is her priority. Of course, since Rika is a girl, we won't shave her entire head. However, we'll have to ask her to stay at the clinic a little longer so we can keep our eyes on her. She can still receive visitors, of course. You're more than welcome to attend the examination. I'm sure she'll be more than relaxed to have someone else she knows nearby. Do you really need to perform this examination? Is it really safe? I can't absolutely guarantee her safety for either collecting cerebrospinal fluid or for drilling a hole in her skull. There's always an off chance something might go wrong. Also, Rika may suffer from physical and emotional discomfort. Even if this is important, we can't perform without the parents' consent. Actually, I've already talked to Rika about it. What did she say? She said it's fine. I explained to her the possibility of danger, but we still need her consent. Sometimes Rika truly believes that she is a reincarnation of Oyashiro, so maybe she feels obligated to sacrifice herself for the villagers. What an impressive child. Could you please let me talk to my wife? She understands the situation, but I need to explain it to her. Sure, of course. Please talk it over with her. So this examination is an extremely important step in the process of stamping out the syndrome, right? Yes. It'll solve the mysteries of Hinamizawa syndrome for sure. At least it'll be the first step. As I already explained, if something bad happens to the Queen Carrier, the whole community here may be in danger. In other words, it's possible the whole village could end up with terminal symptoms. That's right. According to the studies, within 48 hours of death, the Queen Carrier, everyone with the disease will become dangerously sick. We must prevent that from happening no matter what. If something happens to Rika, the whole village will go insane. Yes. Our job is to prevent that. It might seem ironic that we have to put your daughter in danger, but this is the only way to stamp out the syndrome. Dr. Irie, I hope you succeed in that examination. As I said, there's no guarantees in medicine. Sure. Irie answered with a nod, interrupting Takano's vague response. I will succeed. I will save Rika and the villagers too. I promise. Okay. I'll talk to my wife. I'll let you know our decision. Yes. Thank you. Okay, so let's see. After Rika and her father left, Takano started to laugh. What is it? What's so funny? Oh, nothing. I just thought it was amusing to get permission for both patient and her parents beforehand. Rika's going through something she doesn't have to. I thought I should as a courtesy. I would have gotten consent from the man last year had he been in a normal condition. Are you being tormented with guilt ever since you started your research here? Well, what do you mean? This type of teasing was normal from Takano, but maybe she'd gone a little too far. Iri made it clear how displeased he was to hear that. You can only research Hinamizawa syndrome by using living beings. You feel guilty by continuing your work because of that. Those guilty feelings are a necessity. Whether it's murder or dissection, the fact that you're taking someone's life is the same. We have to accept that and at the same time devote ourselves to our research. That's an extremely impressive theory you have there. Then, Dr. Irie, How many times have you gotten consent before you cut into people's brains? Iri didn't think Takano knew about that. How many brains have you cut up without consent using your selfish theory that people commit crimes due to mental disorders as your excuse? That is... Common sense changes with time. Back then, doctors didn't need to explain anything or get consent beforehand, so I don't think you have to be concerned about the past. It'd be a problem now, but it was okay back then, so that's fine. But you feel guilty, and that's why you want to get consent from Rika beforehand, and why you want to get it from him, right? That's not true, and in the first place, the treatment and dissection are... Listen, boy. What you want is a stamp of forgiveness known as prior consent, right? What you want is some stamp of forgiveness, some deception to fill your heart, so you can atone for your past sins. If you regretted what you've done, then you'd never get involved with brains again. Yet you're dragging your regrets behind as you continue to deal with brains, guilty all the while. If you truly acknowledge your actions as a sin, then you would have refused to accept the appointment as director. Isn't that right, boy? I don't need to listen to this. Excuse me. You must listen. The field of medicine is constantly won in battles against the era's ethics and social values. When Dr. Takano discovered the existence of the syndrome, people in power at the time just discarded their own ignorance and scoffed at his own foresight. But he didn't stop researching until he collapsed. He believed that someday he'd be acknowledged, even if it was after he died. He still believed in it. He could only do that because of how strong his conviction was. If it wasn't for that, he would have given up. A strong will is what keeps research going. Only the most determined can achieve a result. But you don't have that. You're a coward who still can't decide if he should be proud or ashamed of his achievements. How could you accept the position of director with such half-hearted determination? You knew from the beginning that this research couldn't be brought to fruition without adding further blood to your already stained hands. I don't know what to say. Maybe I am half-hearted. Then why don't you resign? You'll still have the obligation to keep things secret, but at least you won't have that guilty feeling anymore. You may be my partner, but you're simply just a person who is requested by my client. And now this research institute is fully developed. You aren't needed. If you don't even have the necessary determination to do research to begin with, you're an especially useless partner. I'll never quit researching. I'm not afraid of guilt or regret. My conviction is what will take me to the future. Just like Dr. Takano succeeded, I'll succeed alone. That's impressive. However, though my determination may not come close to yours, I too have a will, and that's why I'm here. As you said, I already have blood on my hands. After I arrived in Hinamizawa, they got even bloodier. So I can't run from my responsibilities. I'll probably continue to be tormented by my unatoned sins. But I won't run. I'll get to the bottom of Hinamizawa syndrome. That's the least I can do for all the people who gave their lives for this research, and also for those who will give their lives from now on. Iri wore a determined look on his face. He appeared different from a moment before, when he was baffled by Takano having brought out those painful memories. For a short while, Iri's eyes displayed his strong will, and then he turned around. We'll probably get consent for Rika's examination, so please start preparing for it. Yes, I understand, Director. They got their consent the following week. Damn. Takano's a meathead. I mean, I like her, but yeah. Bad person. Bad person. Well, I feel bad for her, but still. At a quarry in Yagochi. Researching Hinamizawa syndrome, there is something very important that needs to be discussed first. If something happens to the queen carrier, the villager will collapse. In this article, my grandfather called it the most dangerous situation. According to my grandfather, if the queen carrier dies, all the infected persons will go into terminal within 48 hours. This may sound unbelievable at first, but the research and the collapse of such past local religions and groups' deaths around the world should indicate that there's some truth to it. Among all the mysterious incidents around the world, there are some that are caused by parasites controlling entire communities, very similar to Hinamizawa syndrome. Grandfather picked a few cases that are very similar to the syndrome and investigated them. As a result, he confirmed multiple cases of entire communities losing their minds after the death of the religious leader or founder and finally annihilating themselves. He stated that on average it happened within 48 hours. It's clear that infected people are affected by the queen carrier, and the condition of the queen carrier is in fact affecting the entire village. Our statistics already prove that on weeks Rika felt sick and visited the clinic, we saw an exceptionally high number of visitors. Rika being sick with a simple cold had a massive impact. If something particularly bad happened to her, we'd be facing a serious situation within 48 hours. That's why Erie Institute has to protect Rika Furude, the queen carrier, and its most important mission for the Hinamizawa Syndrome Research Project. She's already agreed to help us in our research, but we have to be very careful not to put her in any danger. Also, we have to protect her from anyone who would try to harm her. Her life is equal to 2,000 villagers. But what if something happens to her by accident? The Erie Institute must prepare for that situation. That's why I worked on the draft of the emergency manual when the Erie Institute was first established. It's a precaution in case the queen carrier dies, or if infected people show acute symptoms due to the death of the queen carrier. This is an emergency procedure which must be followed within 48 hours of the mass occurrence of the acute symptoms. The final measure is to prevent the damage from spreading from nearby areas. Oops, I have to do something. Give me a moment. The plan uses gas, making it look like a natural disaster. My client, the Alphabet Project, took the responsibility of working out the details of the plan. They're used to dealing with things like nuclear and biological weapons, so they ended up being a big help. There's no way I couldn't come up with a plan on my own to execute 2,000 villagers. Though the dummy company, the Ground SDF, has a secured, closed quarry in the Yaogochi region, upstream of Hinamizawa. It's to be the secret storage base for the equipment we use in that operation. Equipment that sprays deadly gas that kills people as if they were falling asleep is stored there. In the case of the emergency, a special unit of the Ground SDF is to use this equipment to destroy the village. However, preparing for the execution of the village itself is politically dangerous. So I'm going to insist on them getting the equipment ready. I have to make them understand how dangerous Hinamizawa syndrome is, and also how urgent the need is to have a contingency plan. I have to prove the need for the plan by showing them enough data, so the files my grandfather kept intact come in quite in handy. When the clients read my grandfather's articles about the syndrome, they were surprised to see how catastrophic things could be in the worst-case scenario. In other words, if something happens to this girl, the queen carrier, all 2,000 of the villagers will become deranged. Is that what you're saying? Yes. There have been several cases similar to Hinamizawa syndrome where the group deaths took place. In case of the syndrome, we can easily expect extreme defensive behavior, which results from deep paranoia. The results may affect all 2,000 plus carriers. From there on, we may face abnormal situations involving lawless violence and bizarre religious despondence. We must be ready to face such a situation by having a contingency plan. Otherwise, we'll draw attention from the rest of the world. We have to remember we only have 48 hours to respond once it happens. Are you saying that if it happens, there's nothing anybody can do? Can't you treat everyone within 48 hours? That'll be impossible. We don't even have a cure, and the research center isn't capable of taking in all the villagers. How frightening to realize such a disease actually exists. The world's full of mysteries. Constant vigilance against worst-case scenarios supports our national defense. It is one of the ideas behind the Alphabet Project. Besides, our goal is not to use the plan, but it's vital to be prepared. Indeed. Precisely as you say, I'd still like to look into strengthening the rules of the approval authority behind applying the plan, but I understand the necessity to prepare our response for a worst-case scenario. Let's have the Urban Suppressions research team run a simulation of the Hinamizawa suppression operation in the region. I think we should get it going as soon as possible. It's possible the Queen Carrier girl may get hit by a car and be killed at any moment. Thank you, Major Takano. We have further questions, so you can sit down. Thanks to the push of one of my backers, things were decided without too much of a problem. It took me almost all day to explain it to them, but it only took a short time to come to a decision. Nobody criticized, ridiculed, or even tried to reject my grandfather's articles out of hand. And the files they're all reading today are the very same shameful articles those haughty authorities left their footprints on as they trampled on them in my grandfather's heart. But they aren't ridiculing the articles. They're reading what was once rejected. It's something big at a glance, but in this moment, my grandfather's research is being recognized for the first time. My heart is filled with satisfaction to see people discussing amongst each other while pointing to my grandfather's files and raising them as proof. I've worked so hard for this day. Grandfather in heaven, can you see this? Ah, sheesh. Takano. Now we can read an accident shirk. No, we can't. No, never mind. My bad. I'm stupid. A routine inspection. Lights came on in the meeting room as the slideshow ended. All the auditors began to applaud, praising the Erie Institute's dramatic accomplishments. Wonderful! Absolutely wonderful. To be honest with you, I wasn't expecting too much from this Hinamizawa syndrome research. I figured even if there was progress, it'd be 3 steps forward and 2 steps back every decade. Oh my! How impressive it is to achieve so much in such a short period of time. This is all thanks to you, Dr. Irie. Oh no, this is all because of the staff that supported me, and Takano too. Don't be so humble. Director Irie is a genius in the field of neurology. After all, he's also produced greater achievements than any other doctor when it comes to the brain. That's true. Not many doctors as young as you have nearly as much experience operating on brains. Congratulations, Lieutenant Colonel Irie. Now I can go back to Tokyo with my head held high. I'm honored we gave you something good to take back with you, Tomitake. By the way, could you stop calling me Lieutenant Colonel? I just can't get used to it. I almost prefer Risa at this point. I bet you do, huh? You sure were a huge help. You're the one who secured funding for our research, even when we couldn't produce feasible results. We couldn't have done this without you. It wasn't any trouble. But really, the results you presented today are just brilliant. Not only have you found the cause of the syndrome, but you also provided a clear path toward the future research. We're looking forward to hearing more of your progress when you come again next time. I'm sure the Tokyo office will quit bothering us about cutting your budget with these sort of results. After all, we nearly lost our budget for the canned coffee we provided to you all, didn't we? Tomitake, make sure you report our progress to Tokyo well enough that they give us enough funding to hold a party. We've been getting nothing but the stick. It's time to get for the carrot. We'll be happy as if that carrot comes back in the shape of funding. And with that congenial atmosphere, our routine audit was over. Erie was surrounded by being questioned by the National Institute of Infectious Disease workers who had joined the auditors. Takano, congratulations! I can't really say this out loud, but all your progress I've seen tonight is all thanks to your hard work. Thank you, Jiro. Jiro and I are the only ones here that know the strings are being pulled in order to create the Erie Institute. So only Jiro can understand what I had to go through. But I've only just risen to the stage for my research. My opponent and I are finally in the same arena, that's all. The critical fight comes after this, and it should be getting even more exciting in the future. By the way, Manager Nakagawa told me to tell you he wants you to hold a presentation in Tokyo. Even the Alphabet Board wants you to come meet with them. I guess they all want to hear this directly from you. Oh my. Isn't having you explain enough? I don't think that that's what they mean. I bet they wanted me such a pretty researcher in person. Maybe. My, aren't you being silly, Jiro? Excuse me, Major Takano, there's a phone call from you for Tokyo. Thank you for holding. This is Takano. Hey, how are you doing? Koizumi! Thank you for taking time to call me. You know, I heard you made a significant breakthrough, Mio. So I had to call you to congratulate you. Thank you very much. Yes, thanks to your support, we've been able to accomplish the first step of identifying the microbe that causes Hinamizawa syndrome. I see. Great job, Mio. I'm sure Takano is very happy in heaven right now. That's a little too early to say. My grandfather was attempting to go beyond merely identifying the cause of the syndrome. His work was about showing the possibility of human thoughts actually being controlled by parasitic agents in our bodies. Only when that is proven with his research will be recognized for the greatest achievement it is. When we're able to explain all the thoughts and religions of parasites, the world is going to be tossed into chaos. How interesting! I can just imagine how those religious big shots will react once they find out their leaders are parasites. How interesting! I'd love to see that. I won't die until you show that to me, Mio. Uh-oh. Please don't say that. Do look forward to it, though. I'll make sure this research will spread shock throughout the world. The whole world will finally realize how great my grandfather was. They'll be fighting each other to read over the documents he left behind. Only then can I say that I've repaid my debt to him. I'm a little envious of Takano. I don't want money, you know. I don't mind getting rid of half of what I have. I just wish I had a grandchild who'd carry on my legacy. Thank you very much. Those words mean so much to me. By the way, I sent you a present. It's a nice bottle of wine for you to celebrate with. I didn't know your address, so I sent it to the clinic. However, they told me they're having a difficult time importing it, so it may take a while. But when it comes, please have a party with the people who helped you. Celebratory wine? Well, then I wonder what sort of expensive drink Koizumi will be sending to us. Oh, it's not that kind of expensive. Don't you remember, Mio? Takano used to keep a particular bottle of wine. I remember. That's right. My grandfather kept a certain bottle of wine. I don't know if he bought it himself or if somebody gave it to him. But he treasured it, and he always said he'd open it when his research finally gained recognition. I was a child then, so I don't even remember what brand it was, but Mr. Koizumi would know. He went through all the trouble to find the same bottle of wine for this special occasion. The first time in a while, Takano felt the same sunny warmth she experienced during her time with her grandfather. Thank you very much, Uncle Koizumi. I like it when you call me that, Mio. I don't feel like you're speaking to me when you say Koizumi-sensei. I can't help but smile along with him, because I think Tomitaki and Ira were just having a similar exchange. If you like it that way, then I'd be happy to call you that when there's nobody around. I'd be happy if you called me that even in front of people. I don't know exactly how old he is, but if he can laugh so energetically, he'll live for many more years to come. I guess the saying about living a long life is true after all. Tako and I both wish that you were truly part of our family. We really did. My grandfather had his own family, of course, but because he was so into his research, he became estranged from his wife. They were legally married, but they lived separately. I never met his family when I was a child. I only met them after my grandfather took his own life. During his latter years, my grandfather went into psychological despair and began to look at his life with cynicism. His condition became worse over time. He was shocked at his own dementia. He was afraid of living while his consciousness degraded. So he jumped off the rooftop of the hospital. Only my name was in his note. None of his family members' names were in it. That was when all his relatives showed up and took everything my grandfather left behind. They were afraid I was going to get his estate. They had lawyers and all that, so I backed down. I asked for everything in his study in return. Those idiots don't understand the value of my grandfather's research. They were actually happy to strike a deal out of court, so they could get rid of the piles of papers and jars with human organs in them. They never even showed up once when he was alive, yet, like hyenas, they appeared after his death. I'd never let them put their hands all over my grandfather's research. Fortunately, I was able to protect my grandfather's soul from their tainted hands. Okay, I'll get going there. If there's anything you need, be sure to call Uncle Koizumi, okay? I'll do anything for my granddaughter. Thank you, Uncle Koizumi. I'll work even harder. Aww. Well, I'm gonna finish. We're wrapping this up. Yeah. Disappointment. Oh, not yet. Can we do this one yet? No. A roll of 1. Nope. I messed up again. I'm sorry. What's the next part? I think this is the one. Okay, yeah, we can do that one now. And... Alright. See you next time. Bye.